The executive order that I just signed is another step in our commitment to the protection of lives and properties across Oyo State. Security is not the responsibility of government alone. It is a collective duty, and we appreciate the many citizens, associations, and groups who continue to support lawful efforts to keep our communities safe. However, at a time when insecurity has become more sophisticated, coordination, accountability, and proper regulation have become necessary. This executive order is therefore designed to ensure that all groups involved in security-related activities operate within a clear legal and operational framework that supports peace, order, and the rule of law.
Good morning, Samson.
It's really nice to be. Thursday edition usually feels different anyway.
Exactly.
But then, let's talk about Governor Seyi Makinde's first executive order of 2026, and that was signed yesterday. It was meant to be amid fanfare, but that was not meant to be because of the recent occurrence in Oyo State, especially in Orire local government. Right. And that's on the backdrop of the incessant kidnappings you have witnessed in Oyo State. And most recently, that of Orire local government, with over 40 people kidnapped, students, teachers, principal, all getting, especially the young kid that was being backed by a mother, one of the teachers who were kidnapped. That was one major reason that made the executive governor of Oyo State think about what else can we do to make sure that security operatives in Oyo State are on high alert to nip further actions of kidnappers in the board before it even happens, and to also aid the intelligence gathering. We signed the executive order, and it's a directive meant to regulate associations, groups, and organizations involved in security and allied services in Oyo State. That, for me, is long overdue. We've got different security outfits in Oyo State, and you begin to wonder what exactly are their roles. Are they duplicating roles? Should there be a regulatory body? Should there be a form of a touch of the state government in all of this to make sure that we don't just reduce them to tools during elections? We make sure that they are put to good use. And are there going to be stipends, supply of ammunition to make sure that lives and properties of Oyo State citizens and residents are actually, safe? And also, there are insinuations that some of them they have been reduced to what you call escorts for dignitaries, especially on big occasions. That's all some of them do. You see them securing party venues, individuals. And then there are so many other things to be checked. If you look at Oyo State, for example, you have the Agbekoya, you have Komsai, you have the Odua People's Congress. In fact, they have about 2 or 3 factions of them. A lot of them here and there. They are littered all around the Oyo State. And, if you go to Okeogun axis, you have this forest guard. Some of them are not even paid by the government. They are just rendering services, some of them pro bono, and some of them are actually getting paid by some local governments and some individuals who value lives and properties in those areas. Yeah. And in some places too, you would have vigilantes. Some of them are even hunters, so to speak. They are mostly in these bushes and hunting for animals, but then when security crisis arise, they actually swoop in to get some things done. These set of bodies, they really have to be centralized. Yeah. There has to be some sort of support from the state government. And in dire situations like this, I think this is the right step in the right direction by the Oyo State governor.
Exactly, and of course, I think it's a good one because I also watched the video. I think he had a press, statement yesterday, and then people were asking to say, okay, how long would this go, in terms of securing the safe release of those people? Because at the end of the day, that's what people want. Because we've seen videos, gory, videos that people do not even want to see. And then I even saw a video this morning where I saw that, the classroom, one of the classrooms, we saw, school bags, food packs, and that the whole place looked deserted. And then even after they rescue these people, I'm very sure that a lot of parents will not want to send their kids, back to that school because of the location and things like that. So I think, the government's coming out now to give an executive order that will monitor the local operatives. I think it's a good one. And I think he also mentioned that, he preached against ethnic profiling to say, okay, do not do that. It's not going to help us to solve anything. Your duty is to safeguard the lives of every single person in this state. It doesn't matter their ethnicity. It doesn't matter what language they speak. In as much as they live in this state, they deserve to be protected. And then even though some persons are saying, okay, maybe because the governor declared his ambition for the presidency, and maybe that's why, insecurity, is biting really hard in the state. And that's an argument, whether they are right or not. They have come out with that argument to say, maybe if he didn't declare, his intention to run for presidency, we will be experiencing this in Oyo State. But beyond that, I think, he's been serious about the fact that he wants to rescue these people, safely back to their families, and I think we need to be on top of our game. And I remember that even the IGP was in this state, he was at the scene. He came down to check, and then maybe that will count for something as well, because at the end of the day, the state might not have that might to actually, solve all of this, and then keep it to the barest minimum, and even solve it, totally. Maybe we still need this, the help of the federal government, in a way. And I also think he mentioned the fact that, the aircraft that, his administration purchased has arrived Nigeria, and of course, I think it's in Lagos as we speak now, so they will make room for it to come down to your state so they can begin to use it to actually, tackle all of these things, basically.
Well, it's quite a challenge that, when it comes to security, Nigerians have had to bear the consequences of situations where the state government had to be proactive, but unfortunately they didn't do that. And it all boils down to the political will to get some things done. And I think some things will necessitate some actions, and that is exactly what we saw yesterday. That the governor decided to get some things done because of what happened. I just hope that going into the future, we don't have to take decisions like this just because lives are being wasted or kidnapped. People are being kidnapped. And some people talked about what advantage does this new executive order by the Oyo State governor. What does it mean for the Oyo State people in terms of security? Well, it brings a better coordination of security activities in the states that I mentioned earlier. But to further amplify that, it can help our government properly monitor and coordinate the activities of local security groups to avoid clashes, confusion, and duplication of duties. Oftentimes, we have seen people go head-to-head, toe-to-toe, because they are trying to mark territory. Oh, we are here before you, or we are more sophisticated, or we are recognized by the state government, and we have probably our commander has a relationship with the governor. All these things will be put to bed, will be put to rest, because now you all know that you are working for the greater good, securing lives and properties of the Oyo State people. And also, the governor has at the back of his mind that he now has an army of vigilantes and security outfits that can aid the responsibility and, of course, help the police and the Nigerian army to get some things done. And I have always said this, that this is where state policing comes in. Okay, if you are local, every crime is local, because a crime cannot be committed at state level if not committed at the local level. They start from zones, wards, units, and then you can now talk about a statewide crisis. But if you know exactly where these people are, you know people who are close to them, you get intelligence way before they even happen. And that can be, even if they do not have the capacity, I mean, these vigilantes and some other security bodies, they do not have the capacity to apprehend, they can easily relay the information to maybe the police or the Nigerian man and say, oh, look, in this particular environment, there might likely be this kind of situation if we fail to get it done. Of course, that will also help the state government in reducing the level of crime committed in the state. And of course, it will help improve accountability and stronger public safety, support for conventional security agencies, which I mentioned earlier, reduction of criminal infiltration. That is something that has really gone unnoticed in recent times. And that, for me, is one of the fears I have for southwestern states. Southwest, I mean, Nigeria as a country, but Southwest is way, I mean, it's a more difficult situation for Southwest states because the borders are they are too porous. And the way you have influx of people into the Southwest and some other parts of the country is alarming. Every night, every day, you see trailers coming from a certain part of the country, loading people with no clear direction of what they are going or coming to the southwestern part of the country to do. And nobody is really checking them. However, there is free movement in Nigeria. There's this freedom of you relocating from one place to the other without being harassed or being profiled ethnically, just like the governor mentioned recently. Right. But the truth is, I can't just wake up this morning and then decide to move to a certain part of the country with no clear course, no direction, just moving because I want to move for the sake of moving. There has to be a clear direction. Where are you going? Do you even have reasons to go to this place? And what are you going to do? Is there a soft landing for you where you are going? These are things you should be checking, because you get to some places in the country and you realize that some people are even homeless. They are sleeping anywhere and anytime. And that, for me, is more or less like a step towards breeding insecurity in the state. If you have people who have high propensity of committing crime, they have no houses, they are living in no clear employment or job they are doing, this, for me, will of course create crimes in that particular environment. And also, if you want to talk about what this could mean in terms of the disadvantages, okay, this could create a bureaucratic challenge, especially for the state government. Yes, it is nice to sign these papers and say, oh, we have an executive order. How do you bring them together? And that is one. Two, how do you now register all of them to know that, oh, the Vigilantes group of Nigeria VGN has so number of personnel. The ComSci, for example, has so number of personnel. There are so number of weapons with them. How do you put all of that together without wasting time, especially in a time where Oyo State is already in need of support for the existing military and paramilitary bodies in the country. Right. And the fear of political control, just like I earlier mentioned when we opened the conversation, will also be a very tough one. I listened to a voice note recently, and I think it was the commander of one of these security bodies in Oyo State, talking to their members, sent a voice note to their group chat and said, look, come and meet me at so rally, and there will be financial inducement. Whether you're a member of the PDP or the APC, just come there. We want you there in your numbers. That, for me, is a level of political control. You are bringing people together who are meant originally to be security personnel, but then you are bringing them together for the sake of for political reasons. That, for me, will be a challenge in the future of how to control them, to tame them, not to be political tools in the hands of a political class, and also not to be a means of oppression to the Oyo State people. It's something that really needs to be addressed in this documentation from the beginning, so that when the time comes, we will not have to be going back and forth, because it is one thing to create, to work on the Constitution. It is another thing to be able to amend it as time goes on, because it's always nice to sign these documents, but to amend later on might be a little bit difficult, especially when people who benefit are already benefiting immensely. And correcting what is wrong might just be a difficult task, just like we are seeing in the larger scale in the Nigerian Constitution right now, where some part of the Constitution benefits some people more than the other. And to amend it will be a very difficult task. So I just believe that we are moving towards the right direction, especially when it comes to security. But then, these areas that are as good as ungoverned in Oyo State and in Nigeria, where there is a limited or no presence of security personnel, especially on the outskirts, border towns, they really need to be addressed. what is the role of the Amotekun Corps in all of this? Do we have to send those who are in the city centers to those areas to secure lives and properties? Do we have to recruit more people? Or maybe this recently signed executive order can address that, where some of them are absorbed into the existing paramilitary agency in Oyo State to fill the void that is currently open, and then we can see how well Oyo State can do in terms of security.
Right, so let me start from the constitutions. I think we've been on it. I think we came back to it last year, and then even some Nigerians were invited to be a part of the draft, a part of the review, and then some persons were calling for, let's just put an end to the entire constitution and draft a new one. But at the end of the day, I'm not sure we'll be able to do that, because it's not even about the constitution now, it's about those who interpret it. If you have a brand new constitution, and then those who are expected to interpret what they want to interpret, it's still a problem. So even as we want to work on the constitution, we must also work on the judiciary as well. And then going to the issue of state police now, I think we've been on it for a while now. I think about last year, the president even mentioned it, that, he wants these people who are on top of it to actually fasten things up to ensure that we have this, even though some governors are actually not interested in this state police. I don't know, the reasons why, but they prefer to remain the way they are now. Maybe because they think it's going to affect their activities, or maybe their security vote or things like that. But majorly, I think we need state police in this country, which is going to help us, get to the bottom of the matter. And then I saw a post yesterday. I think the DHQ released a statement, and they said Seyi Makinde wrong for calling Oyo School attack terrorist oppression, and so they are saying it's not a terrorist attack. So if it's not a terrorist attack, then you have to tell us what it was, because if you cannot identify what the problem is, it becomes difficult to solve it. So if you say it's not a terrorist attack, so those people who attacked that school, who are they? So you must be able to tell us. Maybe you have done your investigation, because for you to come out to say it's not a terrorist attack, it means you have done certain investigations, and you can tell us that, okay, these people came from this particular area, we've seen something like this before, they have attacked a state before, they have attacked a school before, and it's not safe to say they are terrorists. Because if we cannot identify the problem, it becomes difficult to solve it. And I want to believe that maybe the state government will also react to this, to say, okay, they are not terrorists, they are this, they are that. And at a time when Nigeria itself is going through a lot of terrorist attacks across the country, not just the southwest now. So if you are telling us that it's not a terrorist attack, you must tell us what it is. So beyond that, let me also talk about Amotekun. I was speaking to someone, and the person said Amotekun was more active, in the early years of his establishment, especially at the late governor of Oyo State, that's Akeredolu. He was very instrumental into the establishment of that sector. And then after his death, a lot of persons have come out to say that that particular outfit has not been active like before. Maybe it's another thing we need to look at. I remember there was a time that the Southwest governors gathered together in the state to actually discuss security challenges. And then I think it was about late last year. And so I'm wondering what they actually discussed, because it's not just about having meetings, it's not just about pumping money into the security operatives, it's about making sure that we see the result. Because somebody said that if care is not taken, another attack might happen, maybe close by or maybe around the state. Because if you have been able to follow the pattern in the last few years, you notice that when these people attack a state, they come back. Why? Because the environment is conducive for them to come back. So why is it so difficult to put measures in place to ensure that if at all these people attack the first time, it will be difficult for them to carry out another successful attack in that particular area? It's a pattern. Look at Plateau State. More than twice. They've attacked that state more than twice. Kwara is another example. You have one case today, another case tomorrow. Borno State. All these states, they've attacked the state not once, not twice. So why do they keep coming back? Is it because the business is lucrative? Is it because of the ransom? Or is it because of the fact that we are unable to put in place the necessary measures that we ensure that they don't come back? And at the point, if you talk about it too much, some people will come out to tell you that, okay, we do not need the help of the Western world. We do not need the help of the U.S. I can't remember who mentioned it recently now, especially when that ISIS leader was actually, was assassinated recently. And then someone came out to say, oh, we don't need their help. So the more help we take from them, the more we kill these people. They keep coming, they get angry, and things like that. Exactly. And then even a particular person also mentioned something similar, and you begin to wonder, so if at all we cannot do it, can't we take help? We can take some level of help that will not do us any harm at the end of the day, because it doesn't look like, maybe it looks like it, that we can actually solve it on our own, but maybe because of internal sabotage, it's been difficult to actually put this to rest. Because for a country like Nigeria that helped other neighboring countries to solve insecurity, why is it difficult for us to solve our own, problems in this country, basically?
Okay, let's listen to the executive governor of Oyo State. Right. He had this to say yesterday while signing the executive order in the presence of the deputy governor of Oyo State, Barrister Bayo Lawal, and of course a host of other people, the new security advisor to the governor of Oyo State. They had a lot to say, but then let's listen to Oyo State governor. We'll be back.
The executive order that I just signed is another step in our commitment to the protection of lives and properties across Oyo State. Security is not the responsibility of government alone. It is a collective duty, and we appreciate the many citizens, associations, and groups who continue to support lawful efforts to keep our communities safe. However, at a time when insecurity has become more sophisticated, coordination, accountability, and proper regulation have become necessary. This executive order is therefore designed to ensure that all groups involved in security-related activities operate within a clear legal and operational framework that supports peace, order, and the rule of law.
All right, welcome back. That was the executive governor of Oyo State reading out his plans and why he had to sign an executive order for coordination, accountability, and these are things we have actually spoken about on the show this morning. Right. Because these are absolutely necessary. There has to be some sort of coordination, a direction. We cannot float different security outfits and then there will be no clear or defined responsibility. I could remember recently when someone was talking about the Peace Corps bill in the Senate and said, look, what exactly are they coming to do differently to what we currently have in our constitution, and that has been stipulated in the rules and objectives of the existing military and paramilitary agencies. What should we do? Should we now, maybe recruit more? Do we have brain drain in that area that people are beginning to? Because you remember recently someone was saying some people in the particular paramilitary agency would after a few years make some money and then they travel abroad. We also have to check the issue of ghost workers in the paramilitary agencies. I'm not saying they exist, but then if we have such a shortage, we have about 400,000 police officers in Nigeria, and then about 100,000 of them are attached to VIPs and police, talking about politicians as escorts. And recently the president gave out a directive that no politician should have a police officer attached to him or her. And I think there was a particular senator who said, look, if you take away my police officers, I'll be exposed. And we're also seeing some politicians who really do not care about security. We see them walking around, mixing with people, some even drive alone. So what are you doing differently that makes you think that without police officers around you, you are exposed? I was checking around, saw about some senators in the US who don't even have security operatives. They go about their daily businesses, driving their own cars, no driver, nothing. And they do not have to fear what security looks like in their country because they feel like there is an existing structure or system that protects them. Quite unfortunately, I don't think that exists in Nigeria, and that is why, even the VIPs are scared of what will happen. And also, this brings me to the area of private security firms. Okay, I know for a fact that in the US there are quite a number of private security firms that carry firearms. And instead of going to the police for protection, just like politicians will go, they will rather hire private security agencies to secure them. They are mostly retired police officers, retired army personnel who actually left, probably left Iraq or left Afghanistan and felt like, well, this is what I know how to do after my tour in Iraq. I don't think I have to retire just like that. They take up responsibilities with private security firms. So if our police officers retire in Nigeria, what exactly do they do? That's a very big question. If members of the Nigerian army, when they retire, what do they do? Because it begs the question. You don't have to be 65, maybe 50 or 55 before you retire from the army. There are some, an average white man would want to retire maybe at 45 or 50 and do something else. They don't want to be attached to one particular place for far too long. And I know that direct short service in Nigeria is about 6 years. So after your direct short service, what exactly do you do after that? For those whose contracts were not renewed or those who chose not to renew their contracts. So for me, I think this is one area we should look at. These past retired people, can we call them back to service and give them responsibilities to also be active? Because at the end of the day, someone who retired as an army personnel goes into probably trade. This is an alien environment. I'm not saying they cannot succeed or excel in that area, but it's alien to them. That's not what they know how to do. Someone that has, spent about half his entire lifetime assembling arms and, of course, giving orders. And is now reduced to sitting in a shop selling soft drinks and some other things. I mean, that for me is alien to such person. And we should look at bringing some of them back into the system, not as full-time employees, but then what exactly can you do to help us at this time? Experience counts in everything you are doing.
You understand the intelligence system better.
Intelligence system better. I'm not saying if you bring in new recruits, you cannot have exceptional personnel, amongst them. I'm just saying that the difference will be clear, okay? We can recruit more to increase the numbers and, of course, increase the capacity of our security agencies, while we also engage the old, the retired ones, not too old, who are still very much active and they can still do this job. And, of course, they are hale and healthy. We can bring them on board and see exactly what we can do with them. They can even be instructors to these paramilitary agencies you are trying to, bring together. They can be their instructors, their trainers, and teach them how to gather intelligence. Because it's one thing to eventually know how to shoot and know how to assemble firearms. It's another thing to be able to know how to use them when you get to the field of play. Because if you do not know or understand the tactical approach to defense or warfare, the kind of warfare we are going through in Nigeria right now, you might just enter the battlefield and they'll just be nothing more than praise in the hands of these perpetrators. So we need to look at how to train them. And when you want to train them, there's no point bringing in, foreign instructors. We have them in Nigeria. I could remember there was a time that Nigerian Army was, in fact, till now, is being rated as one of the best in Africa, and of course, has top rating around the world. So if we have that much in terms of respect across the world, I think we should, it is time we put that to good use within our own country, restore peace and order, safeguard lives and properties, and make sure that we all find ourselves in a safe place at the end of the day.
Exactly. So let me just link you to the U.S. I think you mentioned this. The Defense Department of the U.S. and then I think Trump came recently and then renamed it and called it the War Department. If you check that department very well, you see that, yes, we have the young ones, the young bloods, but then we have experienced people, especially people in their 70s. They are part of the team. Yes, because experience counts. Just like we mentioned, these people have fought so many wars. Especially
in asymmetric warfare like this, where victims are also together with the perpetrators. You don't even know how to separate them. You can't just waltz in there and start, firing. You need experience.
Right, and then it becomes difficult for certain people to reason you that, like they will reason somebody who has spent just 5 years in the army. These people have the experience. What do you want to tell them that they don't know about? And then what we use, for coming back to Nigeria now, what we use our retired officers to do majorly is to use them as analysts on national TV. And that's a brilliant idea. They have the experience.
And when you fail to pay them their emoluments, they protest. That's also a responsibility now.
And that's another problem. So these people they invite them on national TV. I watched them sometimes, and then they say, oh, they have the expertise to speak on this issue. When they speak, at the end of the day, most of these things, they just say it and then that's the end. We don't see how the Nigerian army, is trying to use the information to better the lives of Nigerians, to improve the security. And that's why we say we talk so much in this country, but then we lack the will, the political will.
Talk so much, do little.
Exactly. We lack the political will, because if you... I've seen certain videos where some soldiers actually released and then they were giving out valid information that can help us tackle insecurity in some state. They will tell you that they think, oh, this is what we should do, this is what we should do. But at the end of the day, you don't hear about them. And you don't see the... And that's why a lot of them will rather keep quiet. And they'll say, if I talk now, they might say, let me go and submit your uniform, submit your guns and things like that. So these people are not willing to talk, except for the ones that are very tough, and they say, if you want me to resign, it's not a problem. I will talk, and then after that, you can just ask me to go and resign.
Well, if you talk too much, you might get your name badge, tag and your badge removed.
Exactly.
Of course, you return your service weapon.
Exactly.
It's not really a safe space for soldiers who really feel like they are being maltreated, especially those on the battlefield, and then they can't even say a thing. Who will listen to them? And that's why recently when we hosted Dr. Kunle Okwala, we're talking about asymmetric warfare in Nigeria and how badly some of these military personnel are being treated on the battlefield. And he mentioned, look, they will have to continue bearing the brunt of the ineptitude of some of their leaders and the inability of these leaders to get the right things done at the right time. Some of them, as long as they are okay, whatever happens to their subordinates, they really do not care. And that, for me, puts Nigeria in a very difficult situation, a dangerous situation at the end of the day, because you now have people who are meant to renew their contracts who came in through direct shore service, and then after 6 years, they feel like, well, I will do better selling tire at, gates or, mechanic workshops, doing some other businesses. Because one, any job that makes you risk your life. Well, every morning when everyone wakes up, you are risking something, okay? But then any job that risks your life that you don't even know if you are coming back home, I think you deserve to be treated like a human being. But unfortunately, we have seen reports recently and complaints by some military personnel. I think one of the reasons Justice Clark is still being held in custody is because he spoke up on behalf of a particular soldier who sent him a DM and talked about
the meal that they were being served.
They were being served. I don't think, sometimes you miss the point totally. When someone cries foul, it's not really about the cry, it's about why he's crying, okay? But then in Nigeria, we leave the main course and we start pursuing the appetizer. And that for me is a no-brainer. We should not just talk about the issue, but the cause or the root cause of the issue should be addressed. If there was nothing like that in the first place, I don't think a reasonable human being would reach out to a blogger or an influencer to help talk about this particular issue, unless there's something going on in there. What you should have done, instead of creating a whole lot of noise around the military, is to investigate deeply and see why that is being done. Whoever has been given that responsibility to take care of them should be held responsible. But then the people who are actually bearing the brunt are still in danger, while those responsible are walking free. In fact, their shoulder pad is as high as anything you can think of right now. But it's an unfortunate situation, and I do hope that we can get that sorted out as soon as possible.
Right, and I also remember a particular soldier, ex now, I think his name is Soldier Boy. There's a time he came out to say that, they buy uniforms, themselves,
even
they buy the boots and things like that. And I remember that, the army came out to debunk that to say nothing like that happened. And a particular lady also came out again to say that what he said is actually true. Now Soldier Boy is into fashion. He's selling maybe wares and things like that. So because, what if he doesn't even have the let me say, the capital to start something like that? Maybe he'll be on the street, and then after he was asked to resign and step aside. So majorly, we just need to be very intentional about our nation, basically. All
right, it's a convenient place to leave that topic this morning. We say thank you for being a part of the show so far. Do well to link up with us on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast, and on X, formerly Twitter, at Dominion Cast. It is time